The word trauma is overused as fuck nowadays.
I don't know.
Fire back on that
That's
if you
a
want.
very hot take. I think you're spot on.
This is a hot take.
Yeah.
Like, I can't change his acorn.
Yeah, how can you grow in that department? You can't discredit that.
That's not traumatic. I've had it way worse.
Right.
This sounds like trauma for you.
Yeah, but if
Yes.
I'm in the shower and I got an acorn and you're over here making fun of my acorn, I'm gonna be fucked up for life.
Oh my God.
That could happen.
So let's look back to the beginning. $8 on a Frozen sometimes, right? You're gonna talk about a Frozen. Yeah, here.
Cheers.
You're gonna talk about a Frozen, and a Frozen is X amount of dollars, and Little Caesars is the same amount of dollars.
No,
True,
that
I
shit is
would rather
nasty.
do
You
Caesars
would
then.
rather have the Caesars
You
over
know,
the.
Jason and I have come up with this philosophy now that we will not buy frozen because
It's too expensive.
you can get a to-go pizza for the same price.
It's standard
With
the same
delivery
price.
fee?
no.
No, fuck
Okay,
no.
well, there you
I go
go.
pick it
Pick
up.
up.
I go pick it
Okay.
up.
Look, Little Caesars is traumatic.
I love Little Caesars.
I would
Sorry
say
about
Papa
it.
John's is traumatic because that guy said some racist shit.
Yeah, he said.
That's traumatic.
He said.
But is the word trauma getting overused?
Can I get a?
Oh, the word trauma.
The word trauma is overused as fuck nowadays. People are over here getting a B- on their college exam and saying they had trauma.
That's
and
true.
needing to move on, needing a psychologist.
So you're gonna lean into the topic like this?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So we go.
I would say Little Caesars is traumatic.
So trauma is being overused.
Yeah, I would say so. I think it really depends the context. Sometimes when I've heard people talk about their trauma, it's about a context that I don't know if I would necessarily label as trauma. It may be traumatic to that person. Who am I to say necessarily if that's traumatic or not traumatic? But part of me is like, that's really not that bad.
No, this is an interesting point because the worst thing you've ever experienced is the worst thing you've ever experienced.
Right.
When you're 5 years old, losing your Lego set to your second born child in the family, that's traumatic.
That's the end of your life.
Right. Yeah.
And that is traumatic to you.
Yeah.
So who is anyone to say, oh, that's traumatic? That doesn't meet the threshold. Because
And there's
then
the problem, probably.
Yeah.
we're over here in America, how are we going to say anything's traumatic compared to someone who's over in, I don't know, Palestine, somewhere like getting fucked?
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's the problem. I think like people will, again, to like your point of the scale, they'll be like, oh my God, this is so traumatic for me. But look at my life as a whole. This is really not traumatic in the whole scheme of things, but also doesn't diminish like if it made me feel really shitty.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you can't like if someone feels like something's traumatic, you can't be like telling them
You can't discredit that.
That's not traumatic. I've had it way worse.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
But everyone's been in a situation where someone is just bitching about something so monotonous,
Yeah.
so benign, where you just want to say to them, snap the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
And honestly, in my life, that probably would have helped a lot. You know?
Yeah.
When I'm over here, first breakup, oh, my life is over. It helps when my parents would say, no, it's not.
This is minimal. This is small. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do, though, to like be able to see and be in the moment and know, okay, there's other things out there that are way worse than what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
You get entrenched in it.
Yeah, it definitely helps like kind of like refresh your own clock maybe of like, okay, but at the same time, like if it is something that's affecting you, it is affecting you. It's such a fine line.
Yes.
Like I feel like to your point of like things that are going off, like we're incredibly like privileged here in the US. But doesn't mean traumatic shit doesn't happen to people here.
Yeah, I did music videos in the south side of Chicago. The trenches are out here too. And even in a small town, I mean, you can be in a Native American land. What is it called? A
reservation.
Or
A
sovereign
reservation.
nation.
Yeah, if you're in a reservation, you can be in complete poverty, or if you're in just a ghetto anywhere. Just because we're in the U.S. doesn't mean we don't know what that's like. That would be bullshit to say. But I get what you're saying, where, yeah. Or even our parents, I mean, or not our parents, but our grandparents, they might have lived through World War II.
Yeah.
Our grandparents.
Traumatic.
That's traumatic shit.
Yeah.
But see, this is the problem, though, where when you overuse a word at a certain point, it means nothing. For example, racism, not to go too deep here, but sometimes it's just diluting the word, and then people don't take it for what it means.
Yeah, for sure.
When it genuinely is affecting someone.
Yeah.
1,000%. I think you're spot on with that. I think you're spot on with that.
I think another word that's used like so overused is gaslighting.
Yes.
Gaslighting. It's like, okay, now everything's gaslighting.
Yeah.
Everything is gaslighting someone.
Because when there is a moment where it's true by the definition gaslighting, it doesn't like have as much of an impact and effect because of the overuse. Same with trauma.
Yeah.
Like to your point of like, oh my God, I'm 3 and my brother stole and broke my toy. I'm so traumatized. Yeah. It's just like, okay, when something actually really traumatic happens, then it just makes that feel like way less important versus the other.
So then it's like almost diminishing the things that are genuinely trauma.
Yeah.
Well, and this is something that I think our age group and probably everyone alive now has noticed, where as a society, we are becoming extremely sensitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Like anything else out there, there are costs and benefits to whatever change might occur. And I think the cost is this dilution of the value of the word, what it actually means to be traumatized. And I think, look, we're all from probably different political leanings. We can, I assume, can all agree that society is becoming really fucking sensitive.
Yes.
For sure. I think there's some things that's really beneficial for society being so sensitive, specifically like mental health. I guess this kind of falls under that umbrella, but it's much more normalized. Where I think of like our parents' generation or even our grandparents' generation, it was like we don't talk about that. That's just how it is. Whereas like now it's becoming more normal in the sense that our generation, I think, and especially ones under us, are really opening that door to have those conversations. But at the same time, are we almost doing it too much?
Yep. Are we over aware?
Yeah, like for example, I was thinking about this the other day. You're not supposed to say homeless anymore.
Yeah.
It's unhoused.
Yeah.
That's where I really try to be like on the quote unquote right
woke
side of things. Yeah, woke side of things. But that's one thing I'm like,
is this over the top?
Is this over the top? Like those genuinely are saying the exact same thing. Why is one so much worse than the other? Like I truly can't see.
You're using different words
you're like,
to say
okay,
the same
these mean
thing.
the same thing. Like, why do we need to change the vocab?
Yeah. Yes.
I know what you mean. Like, and that's what's frustrating because I would consider myself like pretty like quote unquote woke, I guess you could say, or like liberal or progressive or whatever. But like again, like with some of those things, I'm like, do we really need to like talk about this? Like, is this really that big of a deal?
Yeah, like how did it get to that extreme to change something like that?
I think it's obvious. It's people when they voice a concern they get attention. And everyone feels good when they have attention. Period.
Yeah.
It just feels good for people to sympathize with you.
But I would say also people like attention, whether that's good or bad attention. If someone Trump, I'll say, for example, I think he loves having a lot of hate attention. But there's other people that love having love attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the reason for that, and I'm not trying to explain everything, but my take on this is that it's an attention economy. So any attention is good attention because you're getting a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
And I mean, right now, we're over here doing a podcast. We want attention.
We clearly want attention.
You know?
Right?
Pay attention to us.
Yeah. We're speaking out about stuff for no other reason than, it feels good to say something and hear a voice from the void back.
And to hope someone resonates with it.
Here's it.
Yeah.
So for me, when I'm over here complaining about my sister taking my fucking Lego set when I was 5,
this sounds like trauma for you. See, there it is. Like this, but you keep bringing it up. So you were clearly impacted.
I feel like there's like different levels of trauma. Like, I mean, I'm so blessed that I've never really had to deal with any like true trauma. I guess you could say, like, I feel like there's no part of my life that was truly like traumatic. I would never use that, but I know like all of you guys have like different levels of trauma happening to you, whether it's in childhood, whether it's right now, and there's different levels to it and different like genres of it, I feel like.
I look at trauma as a blessing though, in a weird, I think everything
I absolutely agree with you.
It's yin and yang. I think everything is a balance. And if you've never been through anything, I mean, God bless you. That's great. I love to hear that. But from experiencing negative moments which inevitably, I don't care who you are on this earth, you're going to get dealt an L. You're going to get dealt a fat L.
Yeah.
At age 28, we're all almost touching 30. Almost none of us have really made it without a single lick, like a family member dying, whether it happened to you or someone you know. You felt that.
And that's true. Like, I guess my perception of trauma is so different because I'm like in a relationship with someone who's had so much, I guess, like more trauma than I have. Maybe I'm like dismissing some of the things I've been going through.
Yeah, maybe you're blind to some of the things that maybe were a little bit tough or
I mean,
like
yeah,
traumatic.
like definitely try like I
Because,
mean like my grandpa passing away in a literal traumatic accident.
This goes back to basically just saying like everybody's trauma is different, right? I mean, and now you're basically saying like yours isn't as valued because you're seeing somebody else's
something worse,
right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's like oftentimes you think about it's worse. There's other things that are worse, right? And so I can't I'm gonna basically discredit my own stuff because there is other trauma out there, which in my opinion is an absolute coping mechanism. Right.
What part?
Basically saying, well, there's other things out there that are worse. So I'm not going to act like my stuff is that bad.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. When in reality, maybe your stuff is pretty tough, pretty
Right.
bad.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. And
Yeah.
so it's maybe a way to deflect.
Yeah.
No, in my situation, it's interesting. I was hit by a drunk driver, broke my leg. My leg was shattered, torn ACL, torn MCL. I was in the pits. That was the worst thing that ever
And
happened
your
to
friend too, like not knowing if they were gonna live, die, like
Induced coma.
I'll just add too, you were walking. This wasn't you were in the vehicle. You were
Right.
not in a vehicle.
yeah.
me. Yeah, I was thrown 35 feet by an SUV, a drunk driver.
You had to see headlights coming at you.
But to your point, though, what's interesting is that I'm over here dealing with all this negative shit. And what happens? My neighbor is paralyzed from the neck down. He lets me use his wheelchair. So I am quite literally seeing how much worse it could be. I could be paralyzed. I could have a TBI. I could have all these things that are worse. But I vividly remember saying to my mom, it doesn't make me feel any better because this is the worst that's ever happened to me.
Right.
And I think that's why this subject is so tricky because it's only relative to you.
Yeah.
I know firsthand that I could be paralyzed. I'm over here blessed in many ways, but it doesn't make it any easier. And that's why it's so difficult to say, do you meet the threshold?
Right. Yeah.
It's impossible to say.
I think the problem comes in when people use it almost as a joke, right? And so because then there's the reality. You just outline the reality, but then sometimes it's like it's put into this tone and like this joking tone.
Almost like another phrase kind of going off what you're saying that's overused now is being triggered. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
it's the same realm.
yeah, it's like, oh, that triggers me. Where it's like something
Talking about trauma, essentially. Like
Yeah,
something
or
that's triggering is like PTSD.
Yeah.
Which PTSD is different for everybody. I think about my uncle. I'm on the beach and he hears a firework go off and that man is like snap back to something that I don't understand. Right? And so that is like triggering.
Yeah.
Which triggering is not used in that light.
And
Not at
like
all.
guilty,
Anymore.
like I've definitely said that, like
yeah.
jokingly, like I'm so triggered right now.
Yeah.
Like I've joked about that all the time, but
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's hard. Like it's like this weird fine line, and it's like I don't want to. I mean, I kind of want to be more aware of when I'm saying things like that because there are real triggers for people, obviously, and
Okay, so what would the solution be? Because obviously, I think we're pointing out a fact that everyone realizes. In society, it just ping pongs back and forth between extremes and then levels out to a medium that is probably the right answer.
Yeah.
So with this whole trauma thing, how would, like, if you had a kid, you guys are teachers, if you had a kid come up to you and say, hey, I got some trauma.
Oh, I've heard it. I experience it all the time.
I mean, I'm expecting the absolute worst.
And it is the worst
And we've
for them.
seen
No,
the
some of the things they
worst.
tell you is
I mean,
the worst thing you've ever heard.
Jason and
Yeah.
I have both, I mean, I don't know for sure if you have, but like calling like CPS and like
Mandatory reporting type
mandatory
stuff.
reporting type stuff. Like these kids are dealing with shit that makes getting hit by a car look like nothing. And it's terrible.
I believe it, yeah.
So that's like that whole like scale.
Puts
of-
everything into perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's
But to
hard.
your point, that's someone else's perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like I agree with you because like the traumatic that I've personally dealt with, there's some things that are for me a 10, but for someone else it may be a 4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Sure.
it is kind of where you're talking about like that gray area of like, I guess kind of where it falls in the scale of things. Cause I think it is kind of on someone's personal scale.
It's all personal. Like, you can't like tell someone like, oh, that's not traumatic. You know what I
Imagine
mean?
saying
Like,
that
you
to
can't
somebody.
tell someone like, what do you mean? That's not bad at all. Like, if it's in their world and that's like the most traumatic, I guess, thing that they've dealt with, you can't just
But where's
be like,
the line?
You can't
hold
discount
on. Where's
that.
where's the line? Because you say you can't do that, right? But if somebody is saying something that is just genuinely not really traumatic. when do you say, hey,
That's not that bad.
That sucks that happened
you need
to you.
to maybe open up your eyes and realize that that's not that bad. When do you do that? When does that pop up?
That's where I think as a society, when we were talking earlier about have we gone too far, I think we've gone too far there. Because I don't think if someone were to call somebody out, like, oh my gosh, my brother took the car and I was supposed to have the car over the weekend, whatever.
The Lego set. Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
right?
Like the Lego set, but like an adult version of that,
Right.
right? I think we're in a society where it is so much like you're allowed to feel how you feel, which like it's true. I think most of us would agree with that. But at the same time, it's like, okay, when can we call you out though?
Right.
Like when can we call you out
when
for
do you
being
say,
like,
you know what,
you're
that's
being
actually
dramatic.
not traumatic.
Yeah.
You're being a little bit dramatic. Like,
Yeah.
here's the reality.
Yeah, the difference.
When do you call
the
it
difference
out?
between traumatic and dramatic.
I know where you draw the line. With age comes this wisdom where you know things are going to happen to someone in life that are going to be way worse. For example, what you're saying, that person is probably going to have a parent pass away. Whoever, this is going to happen to them. Something's going to happen, and you know it's almost a guaranteed in life. If it doesn't cross that threshold, you need to say to them, in my opinion, I hear you, and in the gentlest way possible, you need to say you're being a bitch. You are being an absolute rat. Trust me. When
This
you
is
get older,
overblown. You're doing too much. Like when do you just have to lay down the hammer, man? Like actually,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and sometimes you do.
I think sometimes you do because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, what's going to happen is if you baby these people who are being dramatic, not expressing trauma, you're not going to do them a service by babying every concern they have. It's almost a parenting thing where you need to have a certain level of harshness.
You talked about how society has gotten soft, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that was kind of brought up. I mean, that's it. That's because we blurred those lines, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Now we were a little bit sensitive, right? Everything is just a little bit sensitive, probably because of that, because the lines are just really blurred.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
And people need to just man the fuck up a little bit, woman the fuck
Sometimes it's
up.
a little
They-
tough love. When does the tough love come into play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, I mean, I grew up with a German mom, and the German culture,
Tough love is real there.
the German culture is very stoic. Just boom,
Yes.
get your ass out of the sand and stand the fuck up, move on.
Yeah.
And even though in the moment I was, oh wow, my mom is being so cruel.
Yeah.
Months, weeks, whatever it was later, I said to myself, damn, this woman is old. Like she's over here been beat the fuck up by life.
Yeah.
And she's still over here kicking. That's a motivation for me now.
Yeah.
The tough love needs to be valued. I think that, right? I mean, maybe is that lost, the tough love?
I think it's
Maybe.
been lost.
Yeah.
It's lost.
I
I think
think
the tough love is a little bit
we are in
lost.
a
I see
society-
it as a teacher. I'm like, I don't use
Yeah.
it enough. I think I need to use a little bit more of it.
Can't
Okay.
say the same.
This
You're hard with it.
This is a hot take. This is a hot take. As someone who's been put in school suspension for bullying my friend, aka just being a dude and being like, you got a small dick, loser. Okay, I think there's a certain element to bullying that is actually necessary because it prepares your ass for real life.
You get bullied in real life.
Yeah, you get bullied.
You are
in
not
real
going to
life.
get pampered, and your bully is not going to get put in school suspension out on the street.
Yeah. You have to learn to stand up for yourself.
Yep. You
So
gotta
if we're
protect
over here,
yourself.
Yeah.
I heard this argument. I actually agree with it wholeheartedly that, like everything in life, bullies actually serve a valid function in society. And I don't agree to the point where it should be where someone's over here putting a rope somewhere. But
Yeah.
I do think that you got to get roasted by the bros and stand the fuck up and fire back. Or in your guys' case,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know.
Fire back on that.
That's a very hot take. I think you're spot on. I don't
see what
know.
you're saying. We pick on each other. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we talk about in our friend group how you need to have thick skin. It's,
Yes. But
it's
that's
for,
also-
it's for a reason because you need to
But
take
that's
a little bit. You
different
need
because
to
you're
dish a little
friends,
bit.
and it's different when you're not friends
that's why it's
and
not
someone
bullying.
is antagonizing you.
But this is also where I think men and women are different. I think men have heterosexual men specifically have a relationship where they can poke the bear like that. If I knew like one of Hannah's insecurities and I try to make a joke about it, it may not always be funny.
No.
Yeah.
Whereas
right.
you guys could laugh it off. I think for women, it's harder for us to like laugh off our insecurities. It hurts more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Agreed.
like-
I
we turn
totally
it into humor.
agree.
We turn
Yeah.
sometimes we just turn our insecurities into humor, right? And we
Right.
just laugh about it. And it's like, well, once again, it's kind of a coping mechanism.
Yeah, but if
Yes.
I'm in the shower and I got an acorn and you're over here making fun of my acorn, I'm gonna be fucked up for life. I
Really?
agree. I mean, you can take it to that point, but
Yeah.
let's say this. Let's say, look, I'm a little bit, I'm having a little bit too many cheese fries at lunch. My belly's boom, and you tell me, hey man, you're looking a little, Santa Claus today, my guy.
Oh,
and then I come
know this.
around and I'm okay. Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna walk to school today. Parent status. I'm gonna walk up that mountain. That might actually benefit me because
No, I have
think
a friend that just called me right out. I'm like, yeah, I gotta work. You're right, I gotta work. And so like sometimes, yeah, that tough love just works. It's
Yeah.
necessary. And so I think to
Yeah.
loop back to it, it's like, yeah, we're talking about that side of things. Like sometimes you just need the tough love
Well,
to wake up.
And
Yeah.
I'm curious, I have a very key moment in my life when my dad gave me tough love and it truly resonated with me. Do you guys have that ever happened to you where someone did give you really tough love and you're like, you know
100%.
what, you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
my mom says I need to get a job, get a haircut, quit being a slouch, do some shit with my life, and quit being a fucking bum.
Stop tricking us.
Did it work?
It's working right now because I'm bringing it up. That's trauma. That's trauma.
Are you overusing the word?
See, that's where, she's telling the truth, I'm not going to attract a mate. I'm not going to reproduce on this ball unless I get my ass in gear and do something. That's why I'm
Yeah.
doing this podcast.
So here we
Yeah.
are. We're trying to
But
do
I think
something.
We're
this
gonna be
is the point.
thousandaires.
But I think this is the point that I think needs to be expressed more, which is that, okay, look, it's not always going to be peaches and daisies and roses. Sometimes people need to just tell you, look,
Yeah.
Wake up.
your haircut's rat.
Yeah.
Get your ass to the barber.
You look slumpy. You look
Yeah.
like it's not on.
But I agree. If it's something that is an insecurity, the acorn phenomenon. The acorn, it's like, that's not going to help a guy. That's
Yeah.
not going to help a guy.
Yeah.
A guy
You know?
can't change his acorn.
Exactly. A guy can't
How
change
can
his
you grow
acorn.
in that department?
No, but this is the thing, though. I think by going through L's, to
Yeah.
almost circle back,
Yeah.
by going through L's, experiencing them, you get stronger. I think trauma
Yeah, for
is not
sure.
an L.
I mean,
Yeah.
just to jump in, I would not be the person I am without the L's that I have taken.
Yeah.
Like I have developed into the person I am because
Me
of
too.
the things that I've had to experience. And in the moment, it's like, oh, this is just not good. I've been dealt a bad hand. But later on, you're like, well, maybe I was dealt the right hand.
Exactly. It's if you feel like shit running an 8-minute mile, that's fine because that's going to get you to that 6-minute mile. You need to go through the pain of just sucking.
Yeah.
And then that's going to teach you, okay, I need to get better at this. And for some people it works. I think there's a balance because you might break someone that way, which I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might find something out about a person through that, though. Like, how much could you really withstand? Are you going to come out of it or are you going to break? Yeah, so that's the
Yeah.
thing, too.
That's why it's important to have good friends, though. I think
Yeah.
one thing I like about our friend group is that, look, if I'm being a dick, if I'm saying some off-base shit, I know that I'm going to get called out on it. And I know the people that's coming from care about me and they want to see me develop and vice versa. It's completely acceptable for a good friend to say some savage shit. For example, we just redecorated our friend's bachelor pad because this man has been dry for damn near 7 years.
Oh my God.
And he had no idea.
Yeah, we'll redact his name, but this man is over here with a fucking cabin in the woods trying to get a woman. It's not gonna happen. You need a woman coming into your house redecorating that shit.
And Hannah stepped in, took care of it.
Yeah, and I mean, the man is still dry, but
So it didn't work yet.
but the point is, he might not be dry. You know, he might meet that one. He might meet that person
That's
who
the
gets
point,
his eggplant popping.
Oh my God.
That could happen.
So let's look back to the beginning. Is trauma overused?
It's so hard. Like, it's truly such a gray area.
It's a scale.
Yeah.
But right now, objectively speaking, it is overused.
Yeah, I would say the
Agreed.
word trauma itself is way overused. Now, the meaning behind it, I think that's where the gray area is.
Yep.
You know?
Agreed.
And you can instantly sense it with someone who's using it in a completely attention-seeking way versus
Yeah.
real.
Yep.
And I think as humans, everyone is, look, I feel you. You know? That's real.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it is a Lego set situation, you can tell when someone's being genuine versus just being a baby.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's personality. You know, it's the person. You get to know people. It's personality. And so if it's like being overused, you can kind of tell that person's abusing the word or like
Yeah.
that the energy of the conversation, maybe they're abusing the word. But like when it comes down to it, yeah, society says that, well, things are tough.
Yeah.
And I think right now, all we can do, realistically, we're not going to change anything. But this is a feeling that we all have. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this, if there's anyone watching this, you guys probably have that feeling too, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not just being talked about it
But this
between us. Like other people are talking about this.
This is why I cannot stand this PC shit sometimes, because I gotta be real. I'm not going full right. I'm not going full tater. I'm not going Trumper. I'm just saying, in all honesty, sometimes the truth needs to be spoken. I'm over here Moses with the tablet right now. I'm telling you.
Settle down.
All right, Moses.
All right, Mose.
Go part a Red Sea.
I think we brought up good stuff though.
Go find a burning
Yeah, you
bush.
definitely brought
I think
up
we
good
brought up
stuff.
good stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I really do. I think it's important to reflect and like really try to see it from every single angle. And I think that's kind of what we're doing right now.
Yeah. I think these conversations are important to have.
You're viewing it from all the lenses, and
Yeah.
that's really there's the beauty in it. Sure, there's the beauty. It's like we're gonna sit here and break it down from all the angles, and I think it's overused.
Yeah.
I mean, like from what I'm taking away,
Overall,
I think it's a bit
I
over,
agree.
a little bit
But if we
overused.
boil it down.
Overused.
Yeah.